Martial arts has been a part of my entire life. The practice evolves over the years from fighting to health, physically and mentally, to achieving focus and stability in mind and body. In practice is where I find peace in my day. Nowadays, I practice for all the above, but even more so for the refinement in movement and flow. In practice is where I find consistency and further exploration in perseverance. In martial arts, I've discovered the unnecessary mind imperfection, since in 6 months of consistent practice, I'll improve beyond what I thought was perfected 6 months prior. As martial arts flows, so does time, therefore teaching that time in days and years doesn't really need to be measured. Flow with the sunrises and sunsets. Instead of thinking about the beauty of the sunrise, rise with it and flow your day along with the sun as it passes over the sky. My martial arts practice reminds me there is a system in nature, and to not alienate myself from this system, but to embrace it. Martial arts is my medium for connecting my physical and my spiritual.
Every morning, every day, number one thing is nature. So I always make sure that I spend time in the garden. Sometimes I go for a little walk out into the forest in my backyard over here. And I make sure that the garden gets watered. The garden gets everything that it needs. That's the first thing in the morning. Get that connection with nature. Then it's time for some self-connection. So that's where I get in my martial arts practice. In the morning, I like to just kind of take it easy, do some basics out of at least 2 or 3 of the 12 areas of Kali, of Filipino martial arts. But I still practice some of my old Taekwondo stuff that I learned as a kid. I still practice some of the basics from when I was training in Jeet Kune Do, when I used to be an instructor in Jeet Kune Do. So I still train a lot of that stuff. I still practice a lot of that stuff to maintain it, to maintain the body, the conditioning, and the spirit of those things. I think it's really, really important. So I always like to do those 2 things first every day. Helps to ground myself, center myself, get myself focused for the whole rest of the day. And then I get to hang out with the kittens too. Here comes Yum Yum. And they always love garden time. Yum Yum and Goji, they love garden time. They're playing, they're getting their martial arts training in. They're catching crickets and grasshoppers. And there's Goji and Yum Yum. They like to get their morning garden time in, their morning martial arts practice in with each other as well. They're really good sparring buddies. They're sparring all the time, all day long. All right, so I figured maybe I'll give you a little bit of a tour back here of the fruit trees in the garden. Kind of start back over here. The first fruit tree. This is the first fruit tree that I planted over here in the garden section, which is our nectarine. And this is the tree that Yum Yum is named after. The variety is called a Yum Yum nectarine. And then Goji, who's over here, he's named after our goji berries right there. So then we have our jujube. I just planted this one a couple days ago, or maybe almost a week ago now. We have an Asian pear right here, this long skinny one right here. And then we'll kind of swing it around. And then this other bushier one right here, this is a plum tree, a Shiro plum. No, I'm sorry, this is my Primark tree. The other one back here, that's our Shiro plum. And then we have this little one that is right behind the in between of the plum trees. That's one of our cherry trees right there. And then as you walk in on this side, we have our 2 fig trees. This one exploded this year. So last year this fig tree got about this tall. And this year it has more than doubled in size. I mean, look how much taller it is than me now. It's not putting off figs yet. It's still a little young for that, but maybe in another year or 2, it should start putting off some figs. So I'm really excited about that. I love figs. Figs, that's one of my favorite fruit. And this guy's doing really good as well. 2 different types of figs. And then as we come into this section over here, this is the pawpaw patch. So right now we have 4 different varieties of pawpaw. I have 1 more pawpaw coming. He'll be going around in this area. And this is our pawpaw patch right over here. This one over here got trampled on by some deer. So last year, this whole section was not fenced in. And this one got broken. A bunch of deer were playing around over here and they snapped its trunk. But look at him now. Strong like a Spartan. So that's our pawpaw patch. We got another pear tree right here, Bartlett pear. I figured, you know, why go to the store and be paying these outrageously inflating prices for Bartlett pears when you can just plant your own, and for the cost of 2 sacks of pears, now you'll have pears for a very, very, very long time. And then as we come over here, we have our apricot trees. We got 2 apricot trees, different varieties. We got our little mini hazelnut tree, which will probably take a long, long time for that to give us hazelnuts, but that's okay, we're patient. Our other cherry tree, sweet cherry. This is our Van sweet cherry. And our almond tree. This is our Hall's Hardy almond, self-pollinating. You know, we don't want like a crazy abundance of, you know, food where it's like, you know, we're just growing food for ourselves. We're not looking to grow commercial foods and everything like that. So I know that, yes, if I planted another almond tree, we would get a bigger yield, but, you know, we don't really want so much that we're just gonna be, you know, we're already gonna have way more food than we can eat. So much more food that, you know, we're looking at maybe donating to people who need it, and kind of doing some other things with it. So that's just a little mini tour of some of the fruit trees, and way on the other side of the house, that's where our apple orchard is at, and maybe I'll show you that some other time. And over here is our blackberries patch right over here. We're propagating some blackberries, and we're getting ready to plant these behind the greenhouse. So we'll have a whole nother section of blackberries. Supposed to rain today, which it's just starting to drizzle now. So took some of these beans and just replanted them, so that way they'll grow. Nature will go ahead and water them, so I don't have to. Sometimes it's all about timing. So I'm out here right now getting a few more logs to finish up that border in the garden. I want to finish that whole corner in the garden there and just get that pathway done. I want to show you this because I think it's pretty cool. So when this thing came down a couple weeks ago, man, it was crazy. And it freaked out the cats. We were all in the garden, just kind of doing our daily garden stuff. And when this thing came down, the cats, they just took off straight to the house. It was so loud, it was so powerful that we were almost able to feel it shake all the way by the garden. So, you know, it's just kind of cool, you know? It's like, wow. Good thing I didn't have a tent set up over here. So about a day or so before this one came down, we had a pretty big storm, a lot of wind. It was pretty crazy. So I think it just got weakened up, and it was already leaning. As if you look up, you can see it was already leaning, and it was a healthy tree, and that thing just went. Healthy oak tree, just didn't make it. Never know when it's your time. You never know. So you gotta live wholeheartedly, gotta live fully. You know, this tree's been here for a while, so you never know when it's your time to come down.